The Hub is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
The common belief lately regarding Guam's job market is if you want a job, you can have one. Statistics show a very low unemployment rate, and anecdotally, businesses are saying they're having a tough time recruiting and hiring. To prepare workers, there's the Guam Career and Technical Education Organization, which will be hosting a number of important events beginning February 16. There will be a panel discussion Friday evening at the UOG Lecture Hall with leading scholars from business and the military sectors. And Saturday, they've planned a workshop for educators covering topics on guided college and career pathways to trends and ideas in education and the workplace. Coming up on The Hub, our discussion with the Guam ACTI leaders. Don't go away.
The Hub is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc. The Hub is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
Hafa day, everyone, and welcome to another edition of The Hub. I'm Nestor Licanto. Our guest this week, representing the career and technical education field, we have Dr. Bert Johnston, who is the president of the Guam chapter of the ACTE, who is also, of course, with the GCA Trades Academy. Everybody knows that. We have Dr. Sam Abini-Yan, who's the founder of the Guam ACTE and the chair of the upcoming CTE Summit, and also Gina Ramos, who is the new executive director of the organization. Guys, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having.
Okay. Dr. Sam, let me start with you. Tell us about, first of all, the proclamation that the governor has signed for Career and Technical Education Month.
Yes, the governor's office have been very supportive of Guam ACTE and CTE in general. And this is it's been several years now that they've done a proclamation signing, declaring February as CTE month. And that's actually a branded celebration from our national office. So CTE month is actually something that ACT has been doing for many years. And of course, we're excited because since Guam is where America's Day begins, we started CTE month celebration.
All right. And Dr. Burt, tell us a little bit more about career and technical education. What should we know about that?
Well, career and technical education is preparing people with marketable skills. And some people just think it's to go into the different trades. Some people think it's going into a college path. It's not. It's not either or. It's both. It's basically giving marketable skills to individuals so that they can get employed and make a decent living.
All right. And Gina, talk about
Yes.
the mission of the Guam ACTE.
Well, the mission is to ensure that not only are the community college, the secondary, post-secondary, primary schools, we're ready to train students to be in the workforce, but it's also to ensure that educators that prepare these students, that they get the best kind of training, the best access to sources that'll help them create the programs and curriculum and training that will help develop and provide skills to students. Coming from the private sector, that's one of the reasons that Sam asked me to be part of the organization, is coming from the private sector, having sat on the Guam Community College Board of Trustees. It helps me provide some kind of experience and feedback into helping develop courses, curriculum, training, conferences like the one we're going to host this month, providing that kind of experience and background to this.
Yeah, speaking of the conference, Dr. Sam, tell us about the upcoming, today and tomorrow, there's a panel discussion and a workshop?
Yes, that's correct. On February 16th, today, the Friday, in the evening hours, beginning at 5 p.m., we'll have a panel discussion at the University of Guam Lecture Hall. And we entitled the actual summit, and this is the second summit, by the way. The first one was done back when I was sitting in the Senate. We did the first CTE summit, and this is actually the second. It's about 11 years since then. And we titled this Career and Technical Education Across the Sea, Celebrating CTE in the Western Pacific, because our organization actually covers not just Guam, but our island countries between Palau all the way to American Samoa. Hawaii has their own organization. And this panel discussion that we're going to have Friday evening is really a culmination of scholars and business people who are talking about this very important, serious, critical topic, workforce development. And we want to talk about what is the vision for career technical education moving forward. We hear in the news as early as this week, last week, whatnot, about the concerns that businesses have regarding preparing our workforce and our educators who will be our participants, as well as business people who will be attending the panel, will want to hear about what this is all about. And we have an exciting group of panelists. We have Dr. Jones, who's the Dean of School of Business and Public Administration. We also have from that same school, Dr. Fred Schumann, who is the Professor of Global Resources Management. And then we also have prestigious leaders from our other school institutions, like Dr. Mary Okada from GCC. We also will have Dr. Jessica Barcinas Taylor she's the CTE program director from the CNMI public school system. And then we also will have, let's see who else. Oh, we also have Mr. William Castillo, who's the Hawaii ACTE director, and he is also at the Leeward Community College from Hawaii. And on top of that, we'll also have people from the private sector. That's Miss Yolanda Padrones, who's the SHRM president. She's also the director of HR, Triple J. And we also will have Mr. Charlie Hermosa, who is with the Bella Aviations, and who was also with APL before. And who's also very active in entrepreneurship at the university, from what I understand. And then we also will have Dr. Swanson from Guam DOE. And finally, we'll have our commander, Jamie Rivas. She's the executive director and the officer in charge of construction for the Marine Corps Marianas. So that's an exciting group of individuals who will have a lot to say about workforce development and how they envision CTE moving forward. Not to mention, we'll have Dr. Bert Johnston, who's going to help us moderate the panel discussion for Friday. If you want to hear about the workshop on Saturday morning?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, sure. Well, we have a workshop that we are preparing for our educators for their professional development opportunity. It'll be held at the Guam GCA Trades Academy in Tidzin, Barrigada, and that will be from 8 in the morning till 12:30 noon time. And they will have a number of sessions that will cover a variety of topics that are of interest, current topics, things like AI, STEM as it applies on Guam, what's training, what's coaching, what's career counseling, etc. And they can find all of that at our guamacte.org website. But yes, it's exciting. It's something that Guam ACTE feels is very important that we give back to the community, providing these opportunities.
Yeah, speaking of workforce development, someone who's been intimately involved in that for so many years, particularly in the construction industry, is Dr. Burt. Talk about some of the challenges, Dr. Burt, over the years with the construction industry and developing the workforce in particular.
Well, one of the things that is challenging is getting the skill sets up to speed. In the construction industry specifically, it takes years of training and practice to master these skills. But that clock doesn't start ticking until people start getting to the classes. The other problem is from the employer side, trying to find skilled workers immediately that have the skills, and then developing skilled workers for their future projects. And so that's a challenge. Also, the management of some of the skilled workers. You can't manage a skilled worker as if they're unskilled, because then you'll lose them. And some of the contractors that we're having to deal with are having issues with retention. They can't hold on to their workers. And part of it has to deal with they're assuming that the workers of today are the same as they were 20 years ago, and there's a big difference in that. So those are some of the challenges we're having to deal with.
Yeah. Are you having, is the industry also having trouble recruiting the local workforce? I mean, that's your primary mission is developing the local workforce. Yeah.
It's still a challenge. Right now, we're running between 300 to 400 students a week through class. That's just a fraction of the population, but you've got to also realize that we're not the only industry on Guam. You've got hospitality, you've got transportation, you got telecommunications that are all needing skilled workers. And so it's a big challenge here. Plus the fact that we have leakage. We have people leaving the island, going to other occupations. And so that compounds the issue of what we need to get done here.
Yeah, Gina, you come from the private sector. What
Mhm.
are some of from the perspective of the private industry? How are we promoting CTE on a regional level?
Well, one of the things is exactly what Sam founded this organization for. It's to network with educators, to network with private sector folks like myself, Miss Yolanda, who will be speaking at the conference, to work with GCC, the Guam Trades Academy, the University of Guam, to again to develop the workforce and the skills that they need. So what Sam does, and I think Sam could probably speak to this better, but Sam does network a lot with people within the region, whether it's Saipan, the CNMI, the other Micronesian islands, to try and provide whatever training, information, education that we can share within the region, so that we spread the word. If we're having any challenges here with developing programs for educators, developing programs for students to get them ready for the workforce, we want to make sure that whatever resources we have, whatever we found works, we want to share it with the region. Because I don't think it's just a Guam problem, to what Bert was saying about trying to keep the workforce here in Guam. I mean, I think the challenges may even be more exacerbated in the other islands. So I think these conferences that we're hosting once a year is very important, because it does provide the information and the resources for educators and private business, private sector people like myself, to be able to learn from that and see where we can improve things and keep people, the workforce here on Guam. One of the challenges that we also have, I sit on the GCC board, is with regard to compensation and benefits. And one of the things we were recently talking about is making sure that everyone's wages are competitive to what's being paid in the States. So within the region, on the island, we may not be as competitive as folks in the States. So that's the other thing that we do need to address, and is probably challenging for those of us who need to hire folks.
All right, we got Dr. Sam back, and if you could unmute yourself, Dr. Sam, I do have another question for you, and that is, so are the challenges in the different countries in the region different from Guam's, or are we all kind of experiencing pretty much the same thing?
We share a lot of commonalities, especially as you can imagine, some of our other island neighbors, their salary or their pay system is a lot lower than ours, and so they do seek opportunities. And Guam is one of the first stops, so they lose some great talent. But just like Guam, their goal, in which many of them have joined our organization, is to try to figure out how to build, and retain their workers. But yes, they do share a lot. They also have some unique, challenges. Being as remote, as I've discussed with Dr. Johnston in the past, sometimes they do have challenges in finding trainers for the respective institutions or training, their schools. So they do have unique challenges, but what's wonderful is that they've actually reached out to Guam and the Trades Academy, as well as Guam ACT, to support their needs, because yes, they realize that we are a resource to them, and that we have no intention in trying to retain their workers. We want to help support them. But by the way, Nestor, our challenges are not unique only just to our islands. The United States is seeing the very same challenges that we have, and so that even more so why ACT is important, because we're all talking to each other, trying to tackle this important issue of preparing our workforce.
All right, might be a good time to take a quick break, and when we come back, I wanted to ask you guys about the labor statistics that have come out. Unemployment is low, but there's still a lot of people apparently that are not looking for a job. So we'll discuss that right after this break. Don't go away.
The Hub is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc. The Hub is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
All right, everyone. Thanks for keeping with us. We're back from the break. Before that, I mentioned that I wanted to talk about the labor statistics and the employment situation on Guam. And Dr. Burt, the latest report out of the Department of Labor that we have a pretty low unemployment rate of 4%. But what stuck out to me was another statistic which showed that some 50,000 people are out there not looking for work. And we've got, the business community, as probably Gina can attest to, saying they're having a hard time finding workers. So what's going on? Do you know?
That 50,000 people, you can explain part of that. Some of them are retirees. Some of them may be individuals that have disabilities, stay-at-home parents, people that are still in school. So that they're not looking for a job right now, but they've got other activities that keep them busy, other purposes. But you can't explain the whole 50,000 out there. And for me, the way I look at it is there's only one reason that population exists at that number, is because they can not work. And once you understand that, we have to figure out, well, what's it going to take to attract them into wanting to work? And that's a big challenge right now, is attracting individuals that are not looking for work, that are able to work, and in getting them engaged in the population that we call employed.
Yeah. Gina, you want to weigh in on that one?
Yeah, sure. I think what we're finding is that sometimes on Guam, we're competing with each other. With the buildup, the military buildup, we're seeing a lot of the private sector employees, finding jobs in the federal sector. So that's for us, at least on the private sector. I think I can speak for a lot of the industries, as what we're finding is that we're competing with federal jobs. But to Sam's and to Bert's point is that for those people who are not, if they're out there able to work, is it because they don't have the skills? Is it because they just don't want to work? Trying to figure out what the reasons are for them not actually going to work is probably something that ACTE can look into as well. Is there something that we can do, a program that we can put together to make sure that those who are able to work will actually go out and do some work? I think you're going to have to dive a little deeper into why that is.
Yeah. And so I wanted to also ask you guys, all of you, about, the times are changing, and what sort of jobs are the jobs to prepare for in the future? I know there's been a lot of talk about artificial intelligence and how robots are going to take away all the jobs, that sort of thing. Let me start with you, Sam. Can you talk about what are the jobs of the future, and what should students and young folks out there be prepared for?
Sure. My response is going to kind of tie into what Bert and Gina had mentioned. Bert had mentioned earlier that, the world of work today is very different from 10 years ago, 2 decades ago, or whatnot. People like you and myself, we have job opportunities that we could have never imagined. So which means that we are able to step out of the traditional work setting and then start our own business, go online, what is the term for be influencers. So there are all these different jobs or careers that we had never seen before that are really available to almost anybody, young and old. So those people are also stepping out of the traditional job market. And so what that means is that some of those skills that those new jobs will entail will be those kind of skills that that many of us don't necessarily have, the kind of marketing skills, the online, to be able to work online, to be able to know coding. That's another thing that I really want to emphasize. For instance, Charlie Hermoso was mentioning about drone technology, and they're looking for pilots. But what they also need are people who are doing the coding behind that. And there's a lot of coding that is required for a variety of industries. Hotels use technology all the time, construction use technology all the time, and they need coders. And so so that's the future that's already here today that we can build. And I know that the college has been working on developing coding camps or whatnot. So that's one industry that we should be looking at. You've probably heard in the news, and you probably had covered it, some talks about advanced manufacturing, or and so when we talk about advanced manufacturing, we're also talking about coding, because a lot of those machineries, those robotics will require it. Robots can take only so much. It still takes creativity and the know-how to build and manage and maintain the machines. And the other area that I'm sure Dr. Johnson and Gina can attest to is that we have a future of maintenance workers that we need. Maintenance in IT, maintenance in facilities, maintenance in accounting, etc. But how do we prepare our teachers and our students nonetheless to understand that these are real jobs and skills that need to be developed as early as possible? So there's a lot of work that needs to happen, and I'm hoping Guam ACT can continue supporting our teachers to to prepare for this.
Yeah, and Dr. Burt, what impact do you think these technological advances that we're seeing so rapidly might have on the construction industry, for example?
Well, there's quite a bit. Just even in the air conditioning system, there's more electronics in there than there's mechanical. So getting people that have the electronics background to troubleshoot the different components that are there. But you've got 3D printing, and 3D printing also requires not only software installation, but you have the maintenance of the software, and you have the maintenance of the robotics that inject the concrete. So there's a lot of things that are developing as we speak. The technology is being developed. What may work in a temperate climate such as the state may not work in a tropical climate such as Guam. That's one of the things that the Trades Academy has done, is we've brought in a solar voltaic laboratory to test some of the equipment here and see what works out here. And then train people in the installation, maintenance, and repair of solar technology here. So even with that, that's changing. We had discussions with some of the people that are preparing the curricula, and they're saying we have to revamp it because some of the stuff that we put together 2 years ago is now changed because you've got some other technology that's now being used in the industry that didn't exist 2 years ago. So that's how fast it's rapidly changing.
Yeah, and Gina, coming from the private sector, what are your thoughts on the evolving job market?
Yes, so with regard to the future, I completely agree with Dr. Sam and Bert. I think what you're seeing in the news a lot actually applies to Guam as well, the move to artificial intelligence, AI. So I come from the health insurance industry, and every day you read more, see more about how AI will be applied not only to healthcare delivery, meaning surgeries, medical care, but also in the way health insurance payers like ourselves, how we process claims, how we relate with our customers. I think the future of the workforce will be towards IT, AI. I mean, you saw it in the news today. Guam Memorial Hospital is looking for IT people. So yes, I think it's technology, it's AI. Everything that Elon Musk is talking about out there is probably something we need to look forward to, and ACTE also needs to embrace and cascade down to our educators and to all of the other people that will help develop our workforce.
Yeah, and you think CTE is going to be very helpful in kind of promoting these new jobs that kids should be preparing themselves for?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I think so. We're an organization that's well positioned. You've got private sector, you've got people like Bert and his academy, you've got Dr. Sam pushing all of these programs and things. Yes, definitely. ACT has a role that's very unique. I mean, we're not academia, we're not just trade academy, we're not just private sector. So I think ACT is well positioned to push Guam and the workforce development industry forward.
All right, just got a couple of minutes left, so I'm going to ask Dr. Burt and Dr. Sam to kind of invite folks to attend the upcoming events this weekend, and start with you, Dr. Burt.
Yes, we're excited about what we're doing, but this is just the beginning. We're also looking at developing more leaders within the ATC community to help step forward and help us with this monumentous goal here. All right, and Dr. Sam?
Sure, and we invite everybody to attend. We would love to see as many educators, businesses, parents, whomever who'd like to learn more and be in a place where this critical discussion is going to be in just one place at the UOG lecture hall. I encourage you to visit guamacte.org, our website, and click onto the information sheet. And there's a registration line there that we would like you to, we encourage you to please register so we can get an idea of who's going to be, how many seats will be needed for both the panel discussion at Friday night at the UOG lecture hall. And again, it's going to be an exciting group of panelists, and it'll be moderated by Dr. Burt Johnson himself. And I'll be there, of course, and Gina Ramos and the rest of us. And I hope you too, Nestor, will be there to cover this. I will share that our local public television station will be also covering it and posting it so that because it is an educational event. And again, register guamacte.org. We are very excited. CTE is not new. It's been here for over 100 years. It's just now a newfangled name, CTE, and we hope everybody continues to support our organization.
All right, Dr. Bert Johnston, Gina Ramos, and Dr. Sam Abini-Young. Thank you for joining us. They are of the Guam ACTE organization. I'm Nestor Licanto. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you again next week on The Hub.